I'm good, and how are you? Good. Morning.
Morning, DG.
Morning.
How are you, DG?
I'm good, and how are you? Who's in Pretoria? Willie.
It's William. Yes, DG.
Okay, we are about to commence the post-cabinet briefing. Good morning, colleagues. Minister Kubayi-Ngubane is going to be briefing on the post-cabinet briefing. It's over to you, Minister. Kubayi-Ngubane, Andiswa. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to update you. Thank you. Over to you, Minister.
Good morning, colleagues, as well the colleagues in Pretoria. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I will not waste time, and noting that colleagues will have the statement. It's a bit quite longer, so I wouldn't really go into details. I'll just touch on key issues, but reflect everything that has been decided and discussed by Cabinet. I think firstly, colleagues, we reflected on the MTBBS 2017 as delivered by Minister Gigaba last week. And we as Cabinet understand the constrained fiscal space is government's commitment to meet challenges in South Africa is demonstrated by interventions to go township and rural economies, strengthen good governance at state-owned companies, as well as additional significant allocation of funding for higher education. Cabinet calls on all South Africans to join in the increasing efforts to grow the economy. So we just want, because we have done this before, just reflecting that. Details are there, but we're really looking at the MTBBS as one of the areas that will assist us to grow the economy, but accepting that this was a quite frank and honest statement delivered by Minister Gigaba. The second issue that we looked at is around the quarterly labor force survey that has been released. We appreciate this, which showed that unemployment remained unchanged from the previous quarter at 27.7%. And this obviously remains a concern for us, and efforts would have to be put in ensuring that more South Africans get employment. The employment gains recorded in the formal sector of 187,000 over the quarter. The informal sector and agriculture sector recorded employment losses of 71,000 and 25,000 respectively. As government, we remain committed to doing everything possible to deal with the unemployment challenges, and calls as well on private sector to do their part in ensuring that we deal with issues of unemployment. We continue to celebrate the centenary of Oliver Reginald Tambo. And as Cabinet, we thank all South Africans for celebrating the centenary of our struggle stalwart, O.R. Tambo, which culminated in a celebration on Friday, 27 October at Nkantolo village in the Eastern Cape. As part of the centenary celebration, President Jacob Zuma officiated over improved projects, including amongst them the handover of the Ludege Dam in Bizana, which was built as part of the Greater Bizana Regional Bulk Water Supply Scheme by the Department of Water and Sanitation. A visit to the Nyameni family in Ludege village, where the President switched on electricity as part of the broader government rural electrification program in Bizana and surrounding areas. The Department of Transport contributed and donated bicycles to learners at the O.R. Tambo Technical High School as part of their program on Shovaka Lula program, which supports learners who walk more than 3 kilometers to school. We also, from the Department of Communication, visited a Vukuzenzele special school for children living with disabilities and donated a cyber lab as part of ensuring equal access to technology. Moving forward, Cabinet appeals to South Africans and communities to partner with law enforcement agencies to fight crime. This is in relation with the crime statistics that we have been able to receive, that were released by Minister Fikile Mbalula last week. And Cabinet is convinced that it is only through working together that we can all benefit from creating safer communities that are able to develop. The crime statistics assist government and the South African Police Service to monitor key targets and serve as an early warning mechanism to strengthen the crime prevention operation and strategy. It is part of the crime prevention strategy to ensure that all people in the country are and feel safe. One area that we reflected upon as Cabinet is matters around gender-based violence. Cabinet reiterates its condemnation of the sexual abuse of women and children, irrespective of the alleged perpetrator in society. Cabinet encourages victims to report this horrendous crime to law enforcement agencies, authorities, who must investigate allegations of GBV and act firmly with the ambit of the law to ensure that justice is served. The 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children campaign is approaching, and Cabinet has approved this year's theme, Count Me In, together moving a non-violent South Africa forward. Cabinet also calls on citizens to educate one another on the rights of women and children and on the various recourse mechanisms that exist to help victims of violence. The 16 Days of Activism campaign is a UN campaign which takes place annually from the 25th to the 10th of December, as we all know. South Africans are encouraged to actively join advocacy and awareness-raising programs in their respective communities and sector. We further noted the Tourism Transformation Summit that took place, and we call all stakeholders to support the tourism sector's transformation initiatives as it potentially benefits the economy by empowering disadvantaged communities and driving employment growth. The Department of Tourism hosted the National Tourism Transformation Summit on the 30th and 31st October 2017 under the theme, Tourism for All, Transform, Grow and Sustain, which saw the release of the State of the Sector Transformational Report and the launch of the Tourism Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Portal and Tourism Transformation Fund. We further, as Cabinet, welcome the state visit by the President of the Republic of Senegal, His Excellency Macky Sall, on 20th October 2017. South Africa and Senegal exchanged views on critical regional and global issues and signed agreements in several areas. The two countries enjoy cordial bilateral political, economical, and social relations underpinned by strong historical ties dating back to the years of the liberation struggle. The signing of a memorandum of understanding on the twinning of Robben Island and Gorée Island further cements our country's cultural and historic ties as the 1987 Dakar Talks is commemorated. We further welcomed the visit to South Africa by Sultan Hussein Abakar Sain of Titor in Indonesia. The Titor, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. If not, pardon me. Delegation included Muhammad Amin Farouk, a descendant of Tuan Guru, a freedom fighter who was captured by the Dutch and sent to Robben Island in 1780. Tuan Guru and 3 of his companions were imprisoned for about 12 years and thereafter kept in exile in the Cape, where he contributed greatly to the development of the local community and the building of the first mosque. A number of South Africans trace their family history to him. The delegation visited the National Assembly and National Council of Provinces, where they were welcomed by the presiding officers, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, and Economic Development Minister Ibrahim Patel. The visit highlighted the common history of colonial rule and the centuries-old fight for national liberation by the people of Indonesia and South Africa. Today we celebrate trade, tourism, and other economic links between the two countries. Cabinet further reflected on the currently proceeding examinations that are happening and was satisfied that progress, the examinations are going ahead without any hindrances, and continued to call on society to give a conducive environment, especially parents and guardians, to give necessary support and ensure that the learners have a conducive environment to learn. The Department of Basic Education's catch-up program and other initiatives have assisted learners affected by protest during the year, and a positive outcome is expected. As Cabinet, we reflected as well part of the issues around social cohesion, and I think as many South Africans will reflect on this and would be able to identify with this, we commend the law enforcement agencies and the collaboration from the communities who helped secure the convictions of Willem Oosthuizen and Theo Jackson, the two who forced Victor Mlotshwa into a coffin and threatened to pour petrol on him. The judgment demonstrates that South African laws are firm in protecting the rights of all citizens. Cabinet further affirms the right of all South Africans to engage in peaceful protest as part of our constitutional democracy. However, rights prescribed in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa of 1996 are not absolute and must not infringe on the democratic rights of others. Cabinet condemns the blocking of public roads, displaying of symbols of past oppression, and destruction of national symbols which are reflected on our hard-earned democracy. Cabinet is committed to its role to build a cohesive society for all and calls on all citizens to play their part responsibly and in the spirit of working together to build a united and non-racist, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa. So the incidents we saw on the marches on Monday were just one of the things we felt are taking us back instead of providing and enhancing our social cohesion. Coming to Cabinet decisions, Cabinet approved the 2015-2016 report on state of local government in South Africa. The report outlines progress made in implementing the Back to Basic program, a plan of action to ensure delivery of basic services, good governance and sound financial management. The report highlights areas of challenges and provides a base for the implementation of the second phase of the Back to Basic program. The report will be tabled before Parliament by the Department of COGTA. Cabinet supported the proposed amendment of the 3 BBBEE sector. I don't want to do B3 because otherwise it wasn't going to sound. There are 3 documents of BBBEE sector codes. The amendments address sector challenges and peculiarities on transformation that would otherwise not be addressed fully by the generic codes. The 3 sectors are in agriculture, finance, and construction. The proposed amendments have been canvassed with the relevant stakeholders. All the amended sector codes will be gazetted by the Department of Trade and Industry. Cabinet approved the National E-Strategy and its publication in the Government Gazette. It was published in April 2017 for public comments. The E-Strategy articulates a shared vision and paradigm shift from information society to a knowledge economy and society. It addresses challenges including a digital divide between the rich and poor, between racial groups, different geographical locations, and gender issues. It provides a platform for South Africa to integrate technology, which is relevant and related towards advancing development and economic prosperity for the benefit of society as a whole. The Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services will provide more details on this strategy. Again, as the work that has been done by Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services, a national e-government strategy and roadmap will be published in National Gazette. It will bring digital transformation to the public service and enable the provision of improved quality of services while tapping into the digital technology. This as well is going to be available as led by the Department of DTPS. Again, under the Department of DTPS, Cabinet approved the ICT Small, Medium and Micro-Size Enterprise Development Strategy. This is a sector-specific intervention to address challenges facing small, medium, micro-sized enterprises operating in the ICT sector. The strategy proposes intervention to accelerate the development and growth of small enterprises in the ICT sector. Again, Cabinet approved the publication of the report on the evaluation of the National Schools Nutrition Program. This is a government program with an annual budget of 5.5 billion, resulting in 9 million children from poor communities receiving a daily nutritious meal at school. The report provides areas of effective implementation and some areas that needs improvement. I think this is one of the good reports that government prides itself with because it's quite a lot of work that has been done in this area. The report will be made available on the website of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. Cabinet supports South Africa's standing for re-election to the 2-year membership of the International Maritime Organization Council. These elections will be held during the 3rd regular session of the Assembly from 27th November to 6th December in London, UK. South Africa is a maritime nation with close to 80% of international trade done by sea. South Africa's membership in the IMO Council contributes to employment growth derived from the Operation Phakisa Oceans economy. We've been participating in this council, and the issue is for us to contest to continue to participate as South Africa. Cabinet approved the introduction to Parliament, the ratification of the amendment to the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer to include hydrofluorocarbons. The amendment seeks to phase down HFCs, which are some of the greenhouse gases contributing to the depletion of the ozone layer. South Africa is already a signatory to the Montreal Protocol. Another decision, Cabinet approved the introduction into Parliament the ratification of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. It provides opportunities for the protection of vulnerable groups, especially those staying in areas where there is mining activities, against the adverse consequences of mercury on the environment and human health. Cabinet again was briefed on the report of the Commission of Inquiry into Higher Education and Training in the Republic of South Africa. The Presidential Fiscal Committee will sit soon to interrogate financial implications of this report. The Department of Higher Education and Training will have to review relevant policies and legislation where necessary. President Zuma will release the report soon to the public. The spokesperson of the president will communicate the date that is going to the report is going to be released. And on this matter, I think, colleagues, if you can appreciate, because we'll be having difficulty to discuss the report at that time, we'll want to allow the report to be released. We just wanted to share that Cabinet has received the report and there is work that is being done. On the bills that are approved by Cabinet, Cabinet approved the National Minimum Wage Bill, affecting the minimum wage to the lowest paid workers in the South African labor market. The bill calls for every worker to be paid a wage that is no less than the national minimum wage. Once the bill takes effect, employers will be expected to pay their workers no less than the national minimum wage, which is to be adjusted annually. I'm informed, I think there are quite 3 of them that are under Department of Labor. They will do a proper press briefing from Labor so that they can explain the detail of the bills. The second one that Cabinet has approved under Department of Labor is the Basic Conditions of Employment Amendment Bill of 2017. This amends the Basic Conditions of Employment Act 1997 to ensure it provides for the minimum wage bill. The last one that has been approved by Cabinet under Department of Labor is the submission to Parliament of the Labor Relations Amendment Bill of 2017. The bill is a culmination of consultation with the relevant stakeholders. It addresses, amongst others, picketing procedures, the protracted strikes, and arbitration advisory structures. The other bill that has been approved by Cabinet for submission to Parliament is the Local Government Municipal Structures Amendment Bill of 2017. This amends the Local Government Municipal Structures Act of 1998. The bill seeks to strengthen intergovernmental and democratic governance arrangements. It also seeks to address issues around the administration and management of municipal elections and to promote the effective and efficient implementation of the Act, as well as to strengthen oversight and governance in municipalities. The other bill that has been approved for submission to Parliament is the Electronic Deeds Registration System Bill of 2017. The bill has already gone through public consultation. It also allows for development of an electronic deeds registration system for the processing of deeds to effect the registration of large volumes of deeds as necessitated by government land reform initiatives. The other bill that has been approved by Parliament, this one is under DTBS, it's ICAMVA National E-Skills Institute Bill of 2017. This is a bill that gives the establishment of the INESI bill. The INESI bill provides for the establishment of INESI as a public entity with its own enabling legislation to address the skills shortages that hinders investment, social, economic development capacity development in the country. Then the last bill that was approved by Cabinet for publication for comments, it's the Postal Services Amendment Bill. The bill provides for the restructuring of the postal sector in general to contribute to the provision of universal access to innovative e-services while continuing to provide quality and secure traditional postal services. Upcoming events, President Zuma, is scheduled to visit the Steve Biko Academic Hospital in Tshwane on Friday the 3rd, which is tomorrow, to monitor the delivery of healthcare services as part of the Presidential Siatlola Monitoring Program. You would have seen the media release from the presidency for this event. I will not go into detail with it. The next one is the National Disability Rights Awareness Month. Cabinet calls on all South Africans to support National Disability Rights Awareness Month between the 3rd November and 3rd December 2017, which also coincide with the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. South Africans are encouraged to raise awareness and protect the rights of people with disabilities while recognizing the gains that have been made to address challenges faced by people with disabilities. National Local Economic Development Conference that will be hosted jointly by Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, together with the Department of Small Business Development, which will be held from the 9th until the 10th of November in Gauteng. The conference is a strategic platform for dialogue between public and private sector on topical and critical issues relating to stimulating local economies by creating an enabling environment to achieve inclusive economic growth. On messages, Cabinet welcomes the announcement of over $1 billion to be invested over several months in the Southern African economy in technology, education, and agribusiness. This was announced by Ambassador Harold Dole, Jr., the Governor of the African Development Bank. Cabinet further congratulates Dr. Nono Simelela on her appointment as World Health Organization Assistant Director General. Dr. Simelela will head the WHO Family, Women, Children, and Adolescents Division from the 13th of November. You'd recall, colleagues, that she's the first African woman to become a gynecologist in the country. So she now has risen to the WHO. She's the second African descent after the Director General appointed in recent months, after 1969 actually, that we are seeing two Africans being in the helm of WHO. Cabinet welcomes the announcement by World Rugby that has recommended South Africa as the preferred country to host the 2023 Rugby World Cup tournament, and also commends the work of the Minister of Sports and Recreation, Mr. Thulas Nxesi, Deputy President Ramaphosa, and the South African Rugby Union BIT team. World Rugby will announce the final decision on 15 November, and we are hoping that we become the winners of this tournament. Cabinet congratulates all participants and winners of the 15th Annual Public Sector Innovation Awards. This awards recognizes successful and effective service delivery initiatives that have been achieved through the application of innovative approaches, methodologies, and tools. Further, Cabinet congratulates SuperSport United FC for reaching the finals of the CAF Confederation Cup after beating Tunisia. The last one, in terms of congratulation, Cabinet express its condolences, my apologies. Cabinet expressed its condolences to the family and friends of Ian McLeod, whose passing was a loss to South African football. He became the first South African to referee at a FIFA World Cup tournament when he officiated in the 1998 Global Showpiece in Africa. Lastly, on appointments, and we continue to re-emphasize that all appointments are subject to verification of qualification and the relevant clearance. The directors to the board of the Expert Credit Insurance Corporation of South Africa, SOC Limited, have been appointed Ms. Lerato Harrieta Mutai and Ms. Sisa Maikiso. Full-time members to the National Consumer Tribunal, Ms. Hazel Filoshni Devraj and Advocate John Rinton Simpson. Reappointment of two part-time members of the Competition Tribunal, Prof. Imran Valodia and Mr. Anton Roskan. Board of the Human Science Research Council, Prof. Mvuyo Tom as the chairperson, Prof. Lindiwe Zungu, Ms. Nasima Basha, Prof. Relebohile Muletsani, Prof. Harun Borat, Prof. Sherin Hassan, Ms. Precious Nompumelelo Sibia, Prof. Mark Basin, Advocate Roshan Dehan, and Dr. Adelia Hamdok. That's it, colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We'll take questions. Can I start with Pretoria? Yes?
Good morning, Minister. Anton Meyer from Pretoria FM. I've got two questions. The first one is about the appointment of a National Police Commissioner. The Police Minister, Fikile Mbalula, said in Parliament that the minister or the Police Commissioner post will be filled by the end of the year. Did he address Cabinet on the appointment of a possible National Police Commissioner? And then my second question is also with regards to safety and security in South Africa, and that's the deployment of the South African National Defence Force. The Minister asked that the SANDF be deployed in the Western Cape and Gauteng. Did Cabinet discuss this issue of the deployment of SANDF? Thank you.
From Pretoria, we are fine, DG. We can go back to Cape Town.
Thank you. I think I'll start. Let me have a sequence, even though you raised late, and then it's you. It's you.
Hi, morning, Minister. Just the was Cabinet briefed on the 1 billion rand investment at all? Where it go to in that? Because that's raised a lot of questions. I know they talked about ICT sector and so on, but exactly where? And then the minimum wage bill. When exactly will that come to Parliament? Have you got a date for us on that, please? Thank you.
Hi, morning, Minister. Paul Herman from News 24. I'd just like to address media reports that there was alleged interference from the state in Fees Must Fall protests last year. I believe the former Higher Education Minister also alluded to the fact that some of his comrades were supposedly involved in amplifying the protests. I'd just like to know if Cabinet at all addressed this issue and was it discussed, and were there any resolutions on it? Thank you so much.
Good morning, Minister Joseph Musia from SABC. I just want to know, there seems to be, it looks like SASSA is on its way to not meeting the Constitutional Court instruction to move the payment of grants from Cash Paymaster Services by the end of March next year. Has Cabinet been appraised of what's happening there, and did it discuss it at all? And on the issue of condemning the marchers on Monday who were displaying old flags and all those things, did Cabinet in any way discuss the content or the reason for the march at all?
Good morning, Minister. Annika Larson here from ENCA. I know Cabinet met for quite a long time yesterday. Did the issue of the possible state capture inquiry come up, the SASSA-SAPO impasse come up, or any new international agreements regarding the nuclear deal come up, please? Thank you very much.
Good morning, Marianne Merton, Daily Maverick. The MTBPS was discussed clearly on the 1st of November. As part of those discussions in Cabinet, could you perhaps clarify whether the Minister of Finance or anybody else talked to the special appropriations bill that is required to give effect to what Minister Gigaba mentioned on the sale of a portion of the Telkom shares? Do we have any further details? Has that Cabinet discussed the quantum of this portion, any structures? If Cabinet has not discussed the special appropriations bill that is required in order to give effect to the Finance Minister's statement, are there any timeframes for this? Because there's a certain amount of time pressure given that Parliament goes into recess in just about 4 weeks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bulelane, SABC. Minister, just on the Fees Commission report, over the weekend, the presidential spokesperson said the report would have been released by the end of this week, and you're saying that it must still be processed. Is there a time frame of this processing, and does Cabinet not see the urgency of releasing the report given the number of protests that we're seeing at university level? And secondly, can you shed some light, if possible, on the options that the report gives? Thanks.
Thank you, Sis Pumla. The national minimum wage bill, when would you want to see Parliament finalize this? Or rather, when would you want to see the bill actually coming into effect? When do you want to see it becoming a law? Would you want that to be done, say, by the new financial year coming up in 2018? And on the Black Monday campaign and the hoisting of the apartheid flag, there has been calls that it should actually be banned, that no South African should no longer be allowed to collect it as some form of memorabilia. What is Cabinet's view on that? Do you support such calls? Thanks.
Thank you very much, colleagues. On the first question, I think it's first and second, there was no report before Cabinet relating to the appointment of the commissioner for SAPS. Remember, the process must be done, and when the department has finished the process, they bring a recommendation to Cabinet. So there was no recommendation for an appointment this time in Cabinet. In terms of the issue of request for SNDF. Did Cabinet discuss? No, there wasn't a request that was made for Cabinet. I don't think even there is a need for such to come to Cabinet. There are processes outside which the Commander-in-Chief, who's the President, is the one that deploys. So that has to be done. Minister of Subs together with Minister of Defense, they will have to do that together with the President, and then a letter be sent to Parliament to notify of the deployment. So that's normally the process, unless if it's such of a nature that the colleagues feel that Cabinet needs to be briefed on the matter, they will bring such a report. So we didn't have that. In terms of the 1 billion investment, it's not yet finalized where it's going. We know the areas where the investment is, as we outlined on education, technology, and that. And obviously, it's in our interest to engage as a country to ensure that as the amount is available, the investment is to ours. So obviously, the Trade and Industry Department will have to work hard to ensure that even a sizable chunk of that money comes to our shores. The minimum wage bill, as I said, colleague, I think there are several of colleagues who have asked. The Department of Labor has requested to do a specific press briefing on their bills, and if it's acceptable, colleagues, that we allow them to come and clearly give time frames, give details on what needs to be done. I hope that's fine. They will be doing that press briefing today to give clarity on all the details. So if colleagues are okay, can we leave those details on that? We have approved the bill for them to move forward and introduce it to Parliament. On the report, and I think it's several colleagues who spoke about the issues of the higher education. Our focus was not on the fees must fall protest. I think, Bulelan, you asked that. We didn't look at the, oh yeah, no, it's not Bulelan, it's Paul. We didn't look at the fees must fall. We're looking at the report in terms of how to fund education going forward, the requests. So not the protest, not the discussion, the issues, we didn't go into that. And that's why I'm saying the discussion, even on terms of what Bulalan is raising, that is going to be released hopefully next week. Yeah, that was the time frame. There were issues that Cabinet asked to deal with, hence the delay. There was an intention to brief South Africans on the report this week, but it will be done quite soon. Hence, I could say, talk about the presidential fiscal committee that needs to look into the costing, where the money is going to come from on a number of things. So I don't want to get into the details of that, but when the press briefing happens, all those details will be dealt with. So yes, we didn't go into the discussions on the interference. No one reported in terms of this. The issue of SASSA, did Cabinet discuss the issue of SASSA? No, we didn't. There are colleagues, what Cabinet did, the President established an IMC to work on this. So the IMC is still working. Once they are done with the work, they will provide a report. Where we are sitting, we don't think there is, we should start raising alarms. We think that the IMC will definitely work to ensure that what has been requested of them to do, they deliver on it. So you have Minister of Postal Service there, you have Minister of Social Development, you have Treasury represented. So we are confident that they understand the responsibility they have to ensuring that the matter is resolved and we do not miss the deadline of court. I mean, they've been given that responsibility. No, there was no discussion on state capture. There was no discussion on any nuclear deal. The issue of the sale of Telkom and the timeframes, that's the responsibility of the Minister of Finance. he has to make sure, because he's the one who has announced, and I'm sure he's aware of the process that he needs to undertake and the timeframes that he needs to be able to put into effect his pronouncement on the MTBPS. And I do take cognizance of what you are raising in terms of Parliament rising by the end of this month. But I'm sure that the Minister of Finance is quite aware and would have, before even the announcement, looked at the timeframes that is required and what needs to be put in place to give effect to such. The issue of the old flag and the march, hence we are saying as Cabinet that we acknowledge the rights of every South African to exercise what is enshrined in the Constitution, their right to protest, their right to freedom of expression and all that. But we are saying, can it be done in the most responsible way? There are images of people burning our flag. There are images of people having old flags, but even insulting and all those things. I mean, and that's why we contextualized it in a social cohesion manner, to say, if all of us understand where this country and the pains of the past, what it took for us to reach where we are, no one should undermine that, but we should all work together to try and enhance social cohesion in our country, to ensure that South Africa becomes and remains a non-racial society, and without anyone feeling that the other does not have to belong here, doesn't have to be here. So that's the first prize. We've not gone to an extent of saying we must ban, because the understanding initially was that these are some of the symbols that will remain within our society as part of our history. Now, we are not yet at a stage where we can say let's ban them completely, because it's part of the history, this is what happened. But if indeed such discussion arises, we'll have to consider it and look at whether it's in the best interest of nation building for us to do such. So that will be the context we have. But we continue to appeal to South Africans to say, let's behave in a most responsible way and build a united South Africa. Thanks.
The last one is, did we discuss the cause of the marching?
Oh, look, sorry, I nearly missed that one. The issue of the cause of the march, I mean, hence the issue around statistics, I think we link it to the release of stats, crime stats, where we are looking at various forms of crime. If you are to look, we're not saying farmers' killings are not important. Every South African remains important for us, and therefore the issue of ensuring that every South African feels safe does not have to go through the fear in their own homes, whether black or white. It's not even about race, it's about every South African being able to feel that we are safe in our own country, and we do not have to fear that our children are going to be killed. We do not fear that our wives are going to be killed, or nor ourselves. And that we contextualize it in the entire process of crime stats as part of assisting government to be able to find mechanisms to resolve it, but equally to be able to proactively say, these are the hotspots, these are the trends, let's deal with them and be able to resolve the issues of crime. So we do not give color to crime, we do not give color to victims, but we believe that all of us are South Africans and therefore deserve to be protected in our country.
Thank you, Minister. I will only take one last round and we end. Pretoria, do you have any additional?
Yeah, thanks, DG. I think we have one follow-up question. You might shoot.
Morning, Minister. Anton Meyer again from Pretoria FM. Just on that issue of the burning of the South African flag, there was a picture that was spreading on social media earlier this week during the protests, and that picture was proven to be taken in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, or 2012, which is an old picture. So I'm thinking, on what information did government rely to say that South Africans actually burned the national flag? during the protests on Black Monday? Did that come from police on the ground during these marches, or did you just take the information from social media, which has proven to be actually fake news? I still find it despicable that people burn the South African flag. I would just like to know on what information did you rely to say people burned South African flags? Thank you.
That's all from us, DG.
Thanks. The last one from this side. Nothing, Minister, just on that.
Thank you very much. Anton, the issue here, I'm saying there were images that circulated. That's what I'm saying, images that circulated in social media that reflected a burning of a South African flag. And that is an image that people were circulating, and we are saying it's not correct, because hence we are saying we should have the discussion as part of social cohesion, because even if it happened 2012 and somebody believed that they needed to circulate it now, it does not assist us in building a country. So it needs to be condemned, that picture of being circulated. Now, the issue of what is happening, did we rely, the discussion is broadly. We didn't discuss pictures. We discussed what happened in the march. We discussed what we saw as what came as images that we could have felt that it needed for us to bring back the issues to the center as part of social cohesion. Now, what you are reflecting, I think we need to be very careful not to come across as being defensive on the things that are wrong in society. We need to be cognizant that we are trying to build a united South Africa. And even if an image is circulated, we need to condemn such an image, because somebody might think that it's okay to burn a South African flag because they've seen an image circulating of such. Now, we need to do that. Images of what happened on Monday, we are saying those who marched for Black Monday, they have the right to march, but they must do it responsibly. Blocking of the roads, it's wrong. Having an old apartheid flag, I mean, some of the images, I'm not so sure if you're going to say all of them are fake news, but there were insulting statements that were put on some of the T-shirts. Now, we shouldn't be selective in wanting to say this part is correct, this part is wrong. We will not correct and build a better South Africa. We must be able to say, while we acknowledge that there are issues of concerns that the participants of the marches felt that they needed to voice and raise with government, which is correct. But the manner that certain things and certain individuals conducted themselves, because we're not saying everybody conducted themselves in that particular manner. Certain individuals and certain things that happened are wrong and remains wrong.
Thank you very much, Minister. That's the end of our post-cabinet briefing, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Also, colleagues, I've realized. Okay, that always when we have